All right, time for another deep dive. And today we're going full Scooby-Doo, like those meddling kids
Mm-hmm.
on this monster that's been lurking in the shadows since forever.
Right.
Fear. You sent over this blog post by Denise G. Lee
Yes.
with her tips for taming this beast
Yeah.
and a research paper abstract that goes deep, deep into the science behind it.
Okay.
So let's see if we can't solve this mystery once and for all, just like Scooby and the gang.
Now, well, what I think is really fascinating is that both sources actually agree on one fundamental thing.
Yeah.
Fear is not inherently a villain.
Right. It's not like this evil entity that we need to just banish completely.
Right.
Like Denise even compares it to like an overprotective bodyguard.
Yes.
They might be a little overzealous at times, but ultimately their heart's in the right place.
That's a great analogy, and it aligns perfectly with the research paper, which
Okay.
explains that fear originates in the amygdala.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
instead of thinking
Yeah.
of it just as an alarm system, think of it as the brain's ancient security guard,
Uh-huh.
constantly scanning for potential threats.
Yeah.
And this triggers the fight or flight response,
Right.
which is super useful when we're facing actual danger, of course.
Like, I don't know, running into a creepy clown in an abandoned amusement park.
Exactly. But here's the thing, though. Our modern world
Yeah.
is full of triggers that our amygdala, this ancient security guard, hasn't quite caught up with.
Right.
Deadlines, presentations, that weird creaking noise in your house at night.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, our ancient security guard is on high alert 24/7.
Yeah.
Which leads to chronic stress.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
No wonder we're all so on edge.
Yeah.
Okay, so fear is this primal response designed to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in today's world, it can be a bit of an overreactor.
Yes.
So how do we work with this overzealous bodyguard,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even turn it into an ally?
Well, that's where Denise's 7 tips come in.
Okay.
They offer a really practical roadmap
Yeah.
for managing fear in everyday life.
Here, let's dive into those tips.
Yeah.
The first one is make fear your friend.
Right.
Now, I know that sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Who wants to be buddies with the thing that makes your palms sweat, makes your heart race?
Yeah.
But Denise makes this really interesting point. Instead of viewing fear as an enemy,
Right.
what if we see it as a signal,
Mm-hmm.
a messenger trying to tell us something?
Yes. And this is where the research paper adds another layer.
Okay.
It highlights the importance of cognitive reframing,
Right.
which is basically changing the way we think about a situation.
Right.
So instead of viewing fear as a sign of weakness,
Yeah.
what if we reframe it as a sign that we're stretching ourselves, stepping outside of our comfort zones,
Yeah.
growing.
Okay, so we're not trying to eliminate fear completely.
Right.
We're rather changing our relationship with it. It's like instead of letting it control the narrative, we become the director of our own mental movie.
I love
I
that.
like that.
Yeah. And that leads perfectly into Denise's second tip, which is think about what you could miss out on.
Right.
Fear can be a major roadblock holding us back
Yes.
from pursuing those dreams and goals.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that feeling when you're about to go on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You're terrified, your stomach is doing flips,
Yeah.
but then you think about the incredible rush you'll feel, the view from the top, the bragging rights you'll have afterwards.
Right.
Suddenly that fear seems a lot less daunting.
I know. And think about all the amazing things you've done in your life that you were initially scared to do, whether it was giving a presentation or traveling solo or even trying a new hobby.
Right.
Chances are pushing past that initial fear
Yeah.
led to some pretty incredible experiences.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So we're learning to reframe fear,
Yeah.
to see it as a potential catalyst for growth
Mm-hmm.
and opportunity.
Right.
What's next on Denise's list?
Well, tip number 3 is all about comparison.
Okay.
Don't compare yourself to others. This one's huge,
Tell me about it.
especially in today's social media-driven world.
Ugh, it's so easy to get caught up in the highlight reels of other people's lives,
Right.
and feel like we're falling short.
Yes, and this is where the research on self-efficacy comes in.
Okay.
Self-efficacy is basically our belief in our own ability to succeed, and when we constantly compare ourselves to others,
Yeah.
we chip away at that belief, which can make us more vulnerable to fear and self-doubt.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes,
We need to remember that everyone's journey is unique,
absolutely.
and we're all running our own race. Speaking of journeys, Denise's next tip is all about getting support.
Yes.
Get support. It's like having a trusty sidekick
Yeah.
as you navigate the haunted mansion of fear.
Right. I like that. And this really highlights the importance of social connection, which the research consistently shows is a powerful buffer against stress and anxiety.
Right.
Whether it's friends, family, a therapist, or even a supportive online community, having people to talk to vent to, and lean on
Yeah.
can make a world of difference.
It's like having your own personal mystery machine gang ready to back you up
Exactly.
when things get spooky.
Yes.
I love that visual.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about reframing, focusing on the potential upside,
Right.
ditching the comparison game,
Yeah.
and rallying our support system. What else has Denise got for us?
Well, her next tip is all about taking things one step at a time.
Okay.
Take small steps. It's easy to get overwhelmed when we just focus on the enormity of the challenge.
Right, it's like staring up Mount Everest
Exactly.
and thinking, how on earth am I going to climb that thing?
Right, but if we break down that massive goal into smaller,
Yeah.
more manageable steps,
Yeah,
suddenly it just feels a lot less daunting.
right.
Instead of focusing on reaching the summit. We can just focus on setting up base camp today.
Right.
You know?
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, that concept of gradual exposure.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. Gradual exposure is a technique used in therapy to help people overcome phobias and anxieties.
Okay.
The idea is that by gradually exposing ourselves to the thing we're afraid of
Right.
in small, controlled doses,
Yeah.
we can slowly desensitize ourselves over time.
So like if someone is terrified of spiders,
Right.
they might start by looking at pictures of spiders.
Yeah.
They may be watching videos and eventually working their way up to being in the same room as a spider.
Precisely. And the research shows that this approach is incredibly effective.
Wow.
It's like slowly turning down the volume on that fear response until it's barely a whisper.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're breaking down big goals into smaller steps. We're gradually exposing ourselves to our fears.
Right.
What's next?
Denise's sixth tip is reflect on your progress.
Okay.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and lose sight of how far we've come.
Oh, that's so true. We're often our own worst critics, right?
Right.
Always focusing on what we haven't accomplished yet
Yeah.
instead of celebrating our wins.
Exactly. And taking the time to reflect on our progress, to acknowledge how much we've learned and we've grown,
Yeah.
can be incredibly motivating and empowering.
Right.
It helps us build momentum and resilience.
So it's like pausing to appreciate the view from base camp
Yes.
before continuing our climb up Mount Everest.
I love that analogy.
Okay.
And finally, Denise's last tip is celebrate your wins.
Yes.
This one is all about acknowledging and appreciating our successes, no matter how small they may seem.
Every victory deserves a little dance party,
Exactly.
even if it's just a dance party in your own living room.
Right. Celebrating our wins reinforces positive behaviors, and it helps us stay motivated.
Right.
And the research shows that focusing on our successes, even the small ones,
Yeah.
can boost our self-confidence and overall well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here with Denise's 7 tips.
Yes.
We're talking about reframing, breaking down challenges, building that support system, celebrating those wins, and gradually facing our fears.
Right?
Now, I'm curious to dive a bit deeper into the science behind all of this.
Okay.
The research paper that you shared mentioned some specific strategies for managing fear.
Yes.
What can you tell us about those?
Absolutely. One of the most powerful strategies is mindfulness.
Okay.
Think of it as training your mind to stay present and focused, even when things feel chaotic.
Oh, I've heard so much about mindfulness,
Right.
but I've always been a bit skeptical.
Okay.
It sounds a bit, I don't know, woo-woo.
Yeah.
Like, how can simply paying attention to my breath really help
Right.
with something as intense as fear?
I understand your skepticism, but the research on mindfulness is actually quite robust. It shows that mindfulness practices, like meditation and focused breathing exercises,
Yeah.
can actually change the structure and function of the brain.
Wait. You're saying that simply paying attention to my breath can rewire my brain?
Yes. It might sound incredible,
Yeah.
but that's what the research suggests.
Okay.
For example, studies have shown that mindfulness can reduce activity in the amygdala, that ancient security guard we talked about,
Right.
and increase activity in the prefrontal cortex,
Okay.
which is involved in planning, decision-making, and emotional regulation.
So it's like mindfulness is giving our prefrontal cortex, that more rational part of our brain,
Yes.
the power to override those knee-jerk fear responses from our amygdala.
Exactly. And this shift in brain activity translates to real-world benefits.
Okay.
Studies have shown that mindfulness can reduce stress, anxiety, and even symptoms of depression.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. I'm definitely going to have to give mindfulness a try.
I highly recommend it. Now, another science-backed strategy is visualization.
Okay.
This one involves using your imagination
Mm-hmm.
to create a mental picture of yourself,
Yeah.
successfully navigating a challenging situation.
So it's like mental rehearsal for real-life scenarios.
Exactly. And while it might sound like something out of a self-help book,
Yeah.
visualization has actually been studied extensively in the field of sports psychology.
Oh, wow.
Athletes have been using it for decades to improve their performance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can see how visualizing yourself, I don't know, hitting that game-winning shot or nailing that presentation could boost your confidence and reduce anxiety.
Exactly. And the research suggests that visualization can work for all sorts of challenges, not just sports.
Okay.
Whether you're preparing for a job interview, a public speaking engagement, or even just a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Taking the time to visualize yourself succeeding
Right.
can have a real impact on your performance.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of these strategies are about taking control of our thoughts and emotions
Right.
rather than letting them control us.
That's a great observation. And it highlights the power of our minds.
Yeah.
We have a remarkable ability to shape our experiences through our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes.
That's incredibly empowering. But what about those times when fear feels like this massive, insurmountable wall? Like when it feels like no amount of positive thinking or deep breathing is going to make a difference.
Well, it's important to acknowledge that overcoming fear isn't always easy.
Right.
There will be times when it feels overwhelming and debilitating.
Yeah.
But even in those moments, there are things we can do
Right.
to manage those feelings and move forward.
What are some of those strategies?
One of the most important things is to remember that you're not alone.
Okay.
Fear is a universal human experience.
Right.
Everyone feels it, even those who seem fearless on the outside.
That's comforting to hear because it's easy to feel isolated, right?
Yeah.
When we're struggling with fear, like we're the only ones who can't seem to get it together.
Exactly. And that's why connecting with others, whether it's through a support group, therapy, or even just talking to a trusted friend or family member, can be so helpful.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're not alone in this journey.
That's such an important reminder. So we're not trying to eliminate fear completely,
Right.
but rather to develop a healthier relationship with it. We're learning to recognize its messages,
Yes.
reframe our thoughts, build our resilience,
Right.
and seek support when we need it.
Exactly. And the research shows that this approach can lead to some pretty incredible transformations.
Yeah.
In the research paper you shared, there are some really inspiring case studies of people who have overcome
Oh, wow.
significant fears and challenges using these strategies.
Oh, tell me about those. I love hearing real-life success stories.
Okay, well, one of the case studies is about a professional who had a debilitating fear of public speaking. They avoided presentations at all costs.
Right.
Even turning down promotions because they involved speaking in front of groups.
Ouch. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I used to get so nervous before presentations.
Yeah.
My hands would shake so badly I could barely hold the microphone.
Well, this individual was able to overcome their fear through a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy,
Okay.
gradual exposure, and mindfulness techniques.
Okay.
They started by giving short presentations to small groups of friends and family,
Right.
and gradually worked their way up to larger audiences.
That's amazing. So they use that gradual exposure technique we talked about.
Exactly.
Slowly desensitizing themselves to the trigger over time.
Yes. And they also worked with a therapist to challenge their negative thoughts and beliefs about public speaking.
Right.
For example, instead of thinking, I'm going to mess up and everyone will judge me, they learned to reframe those thoughts as, this is an opportunity to share my knowledge and connect with others.
I love that. It's like taking those fear-based thoughts captive
Yeah.
and replacing them with more empowering ones.
Exactly. And the results were incredible.
Yeah.
This individual not only overcame their fear of public speaking,
Wow.
but also went on to become a sought-after speaker and trainer, inspiring others with their story.
Wow, that's so inspiring. It really shows that even seemingly insurmountable fears can be overcome with the right tools and mindset.
Absolutely. And there's another case study in the research paper that I think you'll find particularly interesting. It's about an entrepreneur who was struggling with the fear of failure. They had a great business idea, but were paralyzed by the thought of things not working out.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. I've had so many business ideas over the years.
Yeah.
But fear has often held me back from taking that leap.
Well, this entrepreneur was able to reframe their fear of failure as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
Instead of seeing failure as a sign of inadequacy, they saw it as valuable feedback that could help them grow and improve.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective.
Isn't it? And it allowed this entrepreneur to take calculated risks, embrace challenges, and ultimately achieve remarkable success in their business.
Oh.
They even went on to mentor other entrepreneurs, helping them overcome their own fears.
That's amazing.
And achieve their goals.
These stories are so inspiring. It's amazing to see how people have transformed their lives.
Yes.
By understanding and managing their fear.
Absolutely. And there's one more case study I'd like to share with you.
Okay.
It's about a student who is struggling with anxiety about the future.
Oh, that's so relatable. I think we've all been there at some point.
Yes.
Especially during those transitional phases of life.
Absolutely. Well, this student was able to find peace and focus through mindfulness practices.
Okay.
They started meditating regularly, practicing gratitude, and focusing on the present moment.
So they use those mindfulness techniques we talked about earlier.
Yes.
To quiet that inner chatter.
Right.
And find a sense of calm amidst the chaos.
Exactly. And the results were profound.
Wow.
Not only did their anxiety levels decrease, but they also reported feeling more grounded, focused, and resilient in the face of challenges.
Right.
They were able to approach their studies and future plans with a sense of clarity and purpose.
These case studies are so encouraging.
Yes.
They really highlight the fact that we're not alone in our struggles with fear.
Right.
And that there are proven strategies that can help us overcome even the most daunting challenges.
Absolutely. And the beauty of these strategies is that they're accessible to everyone.
Right.
We don't need to be therapists or neuroscientists to implement them in our own lives.
Right. We can all learn to reframe our thoughts, practice mindfulness, build a support system.
Yes.
Celebrate our wins.
Yes.
And take those small but courageous steps forward.
Exactly. And remember, even those who seem fearless on the outside have likely faced their own battles with fear.
Right.
It's part of the human experience. What matters is how we choose to respond to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we're not aiming for fearlessness, but rather for courage, resilience,
Yes.
and the ability to navigate those inevitable bumps in the road with grace and determination.
Exactly. And the more we practice these skills, the more confident and empowered we become.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
I know.
We've covered so much ground, from the science of fear to practical strategies for managing it in everyday life.
It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to take charge of their own relationship with fear.
Me too.
Yeah.
So, what are some key takeaways that we can leave our listeners with? What are some action steps they can take to start applying these principles in their own lives?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to remember that fear is not the enemy. It's a natural response designed to keep us safe.
Right.
But when it starts to control our lives, it's time to step in and take charge.
Right. We can start by becoming aware of our fear responses, right?
Yes.
Noticing those physical sensations, those racing thoughts that urge to avoid or escape.
Exactly. And once we're aware of those responses, we can start to apply those strategies we talked about, reframing our thoughts, practicing mindfulness, seeking support, breaking down challenges into smaller steps, and celebrating our wins.
And remember, even small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
You don't have to tackle all your fears at once.
Right.
Start with one small step.
Yeah.
One small act of courage.
Right.
And build from there.
Exactly. It's like that saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yeah.
And every step we take, no matter how small, is a victory worth celebrating.
This has been such an empowering conversation. I'm feeling so much more equipped to face my own fears and help others do the same.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm confident that our listeners are feeling the same way. Remember, you have the power to change your relationship with fear and create a life filled with courage, resilience, and joy.
So much good stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm hearing you right, we don't want to become fearless.
Right.
We want to, understand what fear is telling us.
Yeah.
And use that knowledge to make braver choices.
You got it. Think of it this way. Fear is like a compass.
Okay.
Pointing out areas where we might need to grow or change.
I like that. Instead of letting it paralyze us.
Right.
We can use it as, a guide, a motivator even.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And remember those practical tips Denise shared?
Yeah.
Those are like tools we can use to navigate those fear-inducing situations, whether it's breaking down big goals into smaller steps or seeking support from our trusty crew.
Yeah.
Or simply pausing to celebrate our wins. These actions can help us shift from a mindset of fear to one of empowerment.
It's like we're assembling our own personal fear-busting kit.
Yes.
Complete with like a cognitive reframing tool.
Right.
A mindfulness meditation app. A whole bunch of celebratory confetti.
I love that visual. And remember, it's not about being perfect or fearless all the time.
Right.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
We're all going to stumble. We're all going to face setbacks along the way.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's part of the learning process.
It's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8.
Exactly.
What matters is that we keep getting back up.
Right.
Keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep growing.
And as we do that, we build resilience, which is like that inner strength that helps us bounce back from challenges and keep moving forward.
Right.
It's like developing an immunity to fear, not by eliminating it completely, but by learning to manage it effectively.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've explored the science behind fear.
Right.
We debunked some myths.
Right.
And we uncovered practical strategies for turning fear from a foe into, if not a friend, at least a more manageable companion.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
Right back at you.
So, dear listener, as you venture out into the world, remember to embrace those moments of fear, listen to their whispers, and use those insights to make courageous choices.
Okay.
And remember, you're braver than you think.
And just like Scooby and the gang, they always unmask those spooky villains. We can unmask the fear that's holding us back from living our fullest lives.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.